What are some signs that a friend isn't truly your friend? Flaking and being generally disrespectful of your time. If you and me make plans, I will be there, on time. And rare circumstances would I cancel, but if I do, it's days in advance. I've had ex-friends, where it'd be at the place waiting, and after 30 minutes I have to text them, hey, where you at? And they say, yeah, sorry, can't make it. Happened to me once my first year of undergrad. Had been talking to this girl from my hometown that moved the summer after we graduated. We liked each other and decided to write letters to one another and call each other all the time. It was always the best part of my day when we would talk. About halfway through the semester the girl just fell off the face of the earth. This happened right after a Cat 3.4 hurricane directly hit where I thought they were, so I didn't know if they were alive. No answers from calls. I had to call the roommate and ask if she was alive, to which I got the answer, she didn't tell you. She wants space. Cough, you know who you are, Shola cough. When they only reach out to you when they want something. A variation on this, will not respond to texts, phone calls that you send them, but will instigate completely unrelated conversations days later. I had a really good friend who would often ignore my texts for days on end, many times when I really needed someone to talk to, and then text me to talk about some video game or something without ever acknowledging that I had been reaching out. This can be very true, but sometimes it can happen on accident. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of doing something on my phone and receive a text from a friend, and I'll push it off to read once I am finished. However, it no longer notifies me, because it thinks I have seen the text, so I often end up forgetting to respond. And the next time I want to text them or they send an unrelated text to me, I get too absorbed in the current conversation to notice the previous texts I haven't answered. It's certainly a bad habit of mine and something I should try to fix, but I still love and care about my friends and would never want to hurt them. But many people do see the texts and just don't care enough to respond as well. You really have to know the person you are texting to tell if it's intentional or accidental. If you feel like it when you are around them, or afterwards, that damaged something inside me feeling. You have described the feeling I had left in me after any communication or time spent with an ex so very perfectly. The day I told him to just go away, I immediately stopped having stress belly. Every morning I was experiencing horrible pains in my stomach and couldn't understand why. One day they're acting like you're their best friend. The next they're acting like you don't exist. You managed to describe at least half of my classmates. They never check up on you or contact you first, they never invite you to things, they never ask your opinions or what you want. This is what my two friends do to. They never ever want to check up on me to see how I'm doing, and then they get mad when I'm not texting them. They have a lot to say about other people you consider friends. Sometimes this isn't always the case. If one of your friends has a toxic friend that you know is bad for them, it's always good to bring it up. I think it's more if the person is constantly running others down to you. You can bank on the fact they run you down to others. You put in more energy than them and it never seems to be enough. Got to clarify something though. Being an introvert, I had this newish friend who I could feel was trying too hard to be my friend. We would hang out with our group, but then he would message me through Facebook, sometimes even call me. I don't even do that with my close friends that much. If I was quiet, I enjoy listening to the banter of our group, but I rarely participate. He would go out of his way to strike up a conversation. He was a cool guy and definitely friend material, but he was kinda suffocating me by putting in so much energy. We weren't close enough that I could tell him straight up to back off a bit during my me time, so I ended up rolling with it. But I found that I was getting tired and it started affected me. I would dread hearing my phone ring, etc. But I was too shy to say something about it. Kind of sounds like he might have thought you felt left out. Sometimes people mistake quiet people for lonely people and make it a point to always include them in everything. I know I've been guilty of it before. If it really bothers you, I would try to explain it. I used to tell people that I had a social battery and it just drained faster than theirs. It wasn't a personal thing. If they brag about being brutally honest and use that as an excuse to talk anyone, including you. I have this friend. She thinks she gives tough love, but anytime you try to give it back she can't take it. If you can't take it, don't dish it out. They don't celebrate your successes. The day my wife announced our engagement to her ex-BFF was the day she realized that friendship had sailed a long time ago. His boyfriend seemed completely incapable of processing the concept that something exciting had happened to someone else. She barely reacted at all, and soon after changed the conversation to how much her and her boyfriend were in love. That meeting just sucked all the air out of my wife's excitement. Took me a moment to realize that boyfriend meant best friend rather than boyfriend. Was a bit confused for a moment. They're always cutting you down, especially in front of others. Yeah, and then apologizes every single time after it happens, promising to not do it again. Or try to gaslighting you saying they weren't that mean. You're just sensitive. They try to manipulate you into doing things that are to their advantage, but not yours. They take advantage of you, betray you, avoid you, let you down, run around, hurt you, and desert you. They ignore you a lot. Like, a lot. I had a friend like this recently leave me, calling me a draining source of anxiety behind my back. Realized afterward that there were a lot of signs that they probably didn't like me. Main was ignoring. I don't mean to sound callous, but I'd take this opportunity to do some self-reflecting if they were that specific about the problem. I'm dealing with the other side of this right now. I have a friend that I do not hate by any means, but she is extremely damaged and anxious, and it is extremely draining to be around. Every conversation eventually cycles back to her worrying over something, blaming herself for something that is definitely not her fault, or overthinking any conversation she has until she starts getting paranoid over every possible implication, even if the person meant absolutely nothing by it. Not to mention, the fact that she is constantly worried about everything going on around her means that she is basically incapable of returning any of this emotional support. She's just too busy being wrapped up in her own it. I ignore her a lot, but from my end it's because if I don't set clear boundaries and take my own time away from her regularly, she will keep rambling and draining my empathy until I'm so tired and apathetic that I'll lose my it on her. That stuff can be extremely toxic to the people around you, and does end up pushing them away, because it just completely drains their empathy. It's like the boy who cried wolf, emotional labor edition. Your friends want to, and will, help you with occasional anxiety, but when it's constant and actively exhausting them, you owe it to both of you to seek out outside help and be courteous of what they are dealing with. That's all meant in a general sense, not a direct response to you. For you. Specifically, just think about it. They might be full of it and blaming your anxiety when they just didn't want to be friends anymore, but they might also have tried to hang in there and just couldn't, because that anxiety made you a very difficult person to be friends with. That's not a permanent character flaw, that's something you can work to change and overcome, and the first step in doing so is being told you've got a problem, so you can actually acknowledge it and seek out help. They say no when you ask them for help building your Lego Death Star. Also, they don't let you help them building their Lego Death Star. I'm that friend. It's my damn Lego Death Star. When someone always tries to one-up you and gets upset, bothered, flustered when you succeed and the friend perceives that she is not. Friends should always build each other up, celebrate each other's successes and be supportive when one or the other person is struggling. A little healthy competition in games or sports is just fine, but it should never get petty. You start questioning if she is really a friend. The problem is I do that with everyone. When they're only waiting for their turn in a conversation. Whoa, I need work on being a better friend. They never ask how you are. When they only ask to hang out, BC someone else wouldn't hang out. I had a friend that was a real friend in school, but never really wanted to hang out outside of school, until one summer she invited me to go to a water park with her and her family. On the way there it came out that another friend of hers was supposed to come, but suddenly couldn't, and that's why they asked me to come in the first place. This person was a bad friend overall. She were a pathological liar, i.e. made up a boyfriend when she didn't have one and posed as him in group chats with everyone else, lied about things my boyfriend allegedly did and, Since I'd known her longer, I took her side and generally made lots of jokes at my expense. She also lied and moaned about how bad her life was, saying her parents were abusive when they actually weren't, and whenever she got mad at me for something that never happened, she'd keep bitching and moaning until I told her what a shitty person I was compared to her and how much everyone loved her and I was nothing compared to her. And I was doing this willingly to the point that I actually believed she was a better person than me and I was shitty and unworthy of any love. Looking back now, I realize the reason I was depressed and had such a terrible image of myself and terrible self-esteem were because of this chick.